You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Where's our little Andy?
He's coming, Bomb DI.
He's coming, all right. I'm just adjusting a little. All right, what do you want to talk about?
I'm talking about Brazil because I'm here, and what they're doing with China. It's scaring me because it's affected me as the dollar is not as strong anymore. It's going down in reais because they're making deals with the Chinese, Brazil, and China.
Oh, wow. So how much of a change has it been?
In the last month, $1 was five. Last month, $1 was 5.3 reais, and now it's 4.9 reais. So I lost like 40 cents on a dollar. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, geez, you're really suffering now.
I'm hurting now.
Jeez. Wow. Yeah, but I mean, there's a bigger piece of that when they start kind of relying on the Chinese versus the Americans. Our dollar starts going down. I mean, that'll go all over the world. That's not a good thing.
Well, it's the American influence on the Western Hemisphere. Right. You know, we've had usually a stronghold. So hopefully the CIA or somebody does something about it. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't think it's time to go crazy panic, but I definitely think the world is shifting for sure.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear a little bit about some real estate in Brazil as well today, aren't we?
Yeah, I got some links that we can see some property and hopefully scoop these deals up before the dollar is too low over here.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, we're stalling. As we stall for Mr. Prasky to join us, we are going to maybe talk a little bit about the market. And I'll tell you, I get so many questions from people that aren't really in the real estate market right now, but they're always asking and saying, "Oh boy, what is the real estate market like?" And I'm like, it's fantastic if you have some listings, because there's such low inventory that everything that goes on the market, as long as it's good and it's priced right, is selling. So we've had a couple listings that, we were maybe pushing it a little, and they sat for a little longer, but now all of them are gone as well. So actually going to be reloaded on a bunch of them. And I don't know. I don't think people are really moving because they want to move. There's usually a reason for it. I know today I'm going on a market where it's two people that are going to move in together, build a home together, and both of them need to sell their home to be able to go into that. And I'll tell you, the other thing is new construction. New construction is good. And you'd think, that not only are rates high, but building is obviously more expensive than what is existing out there. And adding those two together, and people are still doing it, not a problem. So just got to keep it going. But I'll tell you what, inventory changes, the market will change. So hopefully that we stay good here. So that's kind of what the market is. And we're getting, you're on mute. We're getting a lot of multiple offers as well. So we're getting 3-4 offers on every house. So you're getting a little more. People aren't going crazy. People are using inspections still, but it's still, it's a good market.
Hey, so I saw this is quite interesting, and there's a tweet that follows it, but I got to hear your thoughts.
Oh, I know. I've been hearing that this is coming about FHA doing 40-year mortgages. And basically all they're doing is if you amortize it 30 years versus 40 years, your payment's going to go down. And it's a way in which to, get people to buy. And it's fact. People buy on payment. And what's happened with the interest rate is payments have gone higher. And by doing a 40-year amortization, you're going to be able to get that payment down lower. You can qualify for more. And so that's going to give a nice little boost. to the market, and it's going to get FHA relevant again. FHA was one of those programs that people were really shying away from, worried about appraisals because there's a due on sale clause, not a due on sale, but a value clause, basically stating that if the house doesn't appraise for it, you don't have to buy the house. Now, some people would put in language to be able to say, hey, you will still buy the house if it doesn't come in at the appraised value. But FHA was always one of those tough ones, and sometimes they have repairs as well. So it was kind of losing its luster, and typically you don't put a lot of money down. It's usually 3.5%. And so people from sellers weren't favorable for that. But now you're going to be able to get people to be able to qualify, and I think it'll become much more relevant.
Oh, there he is.
I was just making some notes, guys. Good tips.
Well, that's good. Were you listening or were you sleeping?
No, I was trying to get you know what I always forget to do? Everybody else will laugh at this. Of course, when you have that meeting, right? And your computer's not up, it's not ready to go, and I'm waiting for it to open. It's like, pew, whew, whew. Sorry, guys.
That's the Champlin factor.
We really should do something.
You know what? At my new place, I got fiber optics, but I can't get it until the ground thaws out a little because they still haven't.
Yeah, and you wait till they tell you it's $400 a month to hook it up too.
No, it's not. It's actually really good price. So
really?
I'm happy. But I've always wanted fiber optics.
Let me pop up the reply to the thing we just went over, the 40-year mortgages.
Andy,
so I wanted to hear your thoughts on this.
Oh, what is this? This is another one. We were just talking about, Andy, about the FHA, looking at 40-year amortization schedules now to get those payments down. But 0% interest and no payments have to be made for the life of the loan. What? The state is reimbursed by taking a percentage of the appreciation when you sell. Oh, because we know how well things end when a system is created that requires real estate prices to always rise. So California is going to front 20% down payments with 0% interest for home buyers with incomes up to $211,000.
That's amazing. Are they going to take that out of their bankruptcy proceedings, or where are they going to get that money? Because they're bankrupt, aren't they?
Well, it's easy, Andy. You just tax people more.
You got to fire up the printing machine.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
You look like we're twinning today.
What's that?
Welcome to the Checker Shirt Show.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes. You look great in checkers.
Yeah, sure do. All right. So, Andy, you got anything to add to the market? I was kind of talking about the multiple offers and stuff, and that the inventory is obviously still low. I think if inventory changes, the market will change, but so far, so good.
Well, I'd like to add on to what we did last week. So last week we talked a little bit about how houses, in January went from 508 up to 549. Now this January they're back down to 529, so there's still appreciation there. And people say, well, if your theory is so correct and prices fell, why'd the prices fall? I had a lot of people that responded back to that, which was really cool. Shows people are listening and engaging, and I love that. So what it is, guys, is it's interest rates. So when interest rates jumped up, it just brought a lot of people's qualifications down for what they could their purchasing power went down, right? So that's a simple cause and effect. If rates go up, what happens is people can only afford so much unless they get more raises. And right now they're doing everything in their power to stop people from getting raises. Hence we're trying to crush inflation. Inflation is a direct, usually derivative of labor costs and incomes and whatever else. So they're trying to put a cap on one and provide for the other. So if you really look at it, guys, I think that the bottom line is that now that we're in an environment where rates are even starting to erode a little bit, and as we go into the summer and they start seeing really how much they've already affected the economy. I mean, there's some people that are honestly really hurting right now. There's people that are out there that are in the new construction industry that are everybody's laid off. All the architects, the drafters, everybody's scaled way back because they don't have the need for the staff because there's nobody drawing new houses. So I don't think they realize how much of a back whip they've created here. But I hope it's not catastrophic. I hope it's just like, okay, everybody come back to work. But right now, the rates will start. I can almost guarantee you the numbers can't keep where they're at. They're going to start showing numbers going negative. So
the other thing is I mean, you just look at like the 40-year amortization schedule, and 0% on 20% down payment. And we'll just take a bit of the profit that you get. I mean, when that stuff happens, they're fighting against what they're already doing to us, meaning that we see that there's things that are maybe going to start going sideways, then all of a sudden they'll come in with a different program. And it's been happening forever. I mean, when we had the crisis in 2008, all of a sudden they were giving out $8,000 that if you bought a house, you got an $8,000 credit. So that kind of spurred up things. And all right, now we better bring the interest rates down. And I mean, the housing economy is just way too important to everything to be able to let it go. So that's why I just don't think. I mean,
well,
there
but
might be a little shift, but nothing big.
But I do agree that they're so what that California is kind of trying to do is replace FHA. The whole point of FHA, we've all heard of FHA, right? FHA guarantees the 20%. So they're like, FHA is essentially an insurance policy for somebody that a bank would normally not give a loan to. They insure that 20% so that the bank will give the money at an 80-20 ratio so that it looks healthy. And then they insure to the bank that, hey, if this goes sour, we'll cover the 20%. So there's no need to front the money as much as there's to provide an insurance policy, because everybody's very used to being in that environment where things are insured or there's multiple facets of how a person gets the financing. Couple things quick. 40-year financing reminds me of getting a 10-year boat loan. Same thing. I mean, a lot of people do it because now boats are $250,000 for a kick-ass ski boat. And wow, I want to keep my payments under $1,500 a month. Yeah. And that's for 10 years. And it's like, oh my God. So we live in a world of where people live on payments. And I'm telling you, man, all this does is that, like the state of California, if they really do proceed with something like that, where they're guaranteeing and they're doing what it used to be illegal. It's called equity stripping, where they would not allow you to steal somebody's equity, because that's the whole point of buying a house, is to build equity and wealth over the years and not be a renter where you don't build that wealth. So if all of a sudden you have to take a loan that's basically like doing a deal with the mob, where then the mob takes all your money at the end of the day anyway, what the hell is the point of doing the deal? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I got to be honest with you. The whole point of being a homeowner, you guys, in my opinion, is one more vehicle. So when life is going crazy, different jobs, kids, payments, whatever, that house is one consistent asset that will always sit there for you. And once it's paid for, it's a tangible asset. You can actually see it, feel it, touch it. So if your stock portfolio looks like zero, you still got a house that's sitting there that you've paid for. It's just, I don't know. There's a lot more to this.
But if they're going to, on a 20% down payment, let's just say, I mean, in California, I mean, let's just say it's an inexpensive house, it's $1 million. I mean, that's 0% on 200,000. And if you're at 7%, that's $14,000 worth of interest a year. And so what people are going to do is they're going to trade that and say, well, geez, I don't have to pay $14,000 a year. Sure, I'll give them a percentage of whatever happens when I sell the house. And people are going to take that deal because, number one, it's going to get them to qualify for that house. They're in a house.
So Chris, when everybody gets an ice cream cone, is it special? Do you feel? I mean, honestly, go back to being a kid.
Yeah, but you have to be able to get into a house. And right. People are going to choose to get into a house versus not get into a house.
So where I'm going with this is that the value of that ice cream cone goes down in over time when everybody has one. Yeah. And so all of a sudden there's not that appreciation, or you have something I don't have, I'll pay more for it. There's demand, there's whatever. It takes that element out of it. If anybody that can qualify can get this program, and now everybody's a homeowner, which we've proven back, going way back to our old, what was it, Wild Willie's days as president, when he was trying to make everybody go from 63% homeownership to 68 or 70. And they did all these crazy loans that all backfired during the Bush era. I mean, no kidding. And I'm not trying to get political. I'm just saying these are facts. They were forcing banks back in the day to give loans to B and C credit consumers that normally wouldn't qualify, to allow them the opportunity to become a homeowner. So everybody that could put 20% down was a good payer, was already there. They call that A paper. 800 credit scores. Then they're saying, hey, non-verified income, you can fog a mirror, you're self-employed, you're a landscaper, whatever it is, your tax, you will get into a big part of that, housing crisis meltdown was that there were so many bad loans given out back then. And the banks were forced to do it by the federal government. That's why they had the big AIG bailouts and all that, because AIG was funding the feds. There was a whole, I could talk for 2 hours on this, on what a intertwined mess it was. And then at the end of the day, Chris, who paid the price? The consumer. And at the end of the day, they tried to help, and it ended up blowing up, imploding the whole thing. And then the consumer's sitting there homeless again, feeling like a loser because they lost their house. And they really, I think we're set up to fail. But anyway. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of differences from now to then. And I think back then what they were doing was they were saddled with a bunch of inventory. So then it's like, well, let's just try to how do we get more buyers into the game? Now the thing is that you can throw all these little programs out, but there's only so much inventory. Yeah. And I think it's been the key this whole time. I think throughout COVID and now is that the one thing that's remained is it's been between 1 and 2 months of inventory. So typically a market is about 5.5 to 6 months is like a fair buyer seller market.
If those people that were, trying to come up with these ideas, and I don't want to be the guy that kills the idea people, right? Because I'm usually that guy myself. But if you had a situation where you said, okay, what's holding up the marketplace? People that are downsizing, that are waiting for the market to come back on the bottom of the market. So for an example, mom and dad live in a 5,000 square foot house. They've been executives. They made good money. And now they say, hey, we want to sell that 5,000 square foot house so that we can go down and live a modest, simple life. We're going to go down to 1,800 square foot slab on grade Rambler. What they sell their big house for is almost the cost of their replacement house. And they're like, you know what? Forget it. We'll just live in the big house. We'll remodel. We'll put a couple of grab bars in the shower, whatever, and we'll just stay put. That's where a lot of that stopping of the market is. The other stopping of the market is new construction costs. With all the regulations, requirements, safety programs, fees, energy efficiencies, building requirements by these cities and national building codes that are out there, requires to build houses that are ridiculously nice. Imagine if every car had to be built at Rolls-Royce level. Okay. Now, basically, you got everybody trying to build a Rolls-Royce because they have to be in that, and that might be a little facetious, but I mean, let's say Chevrolet level. So you're at the Chevrolet level, and everybody has to build a Chevrolet. Well, now you can't have the Yugos of the world that serve a purpose. Not everybody needs the big fancy, overdone, whatever. And all of it's in an effort to be safe and efficient. I get it. But on the other hand, it runs prices up like crazy. The investors that buy dirt and try to turn dirt from raw land into farmland right now, most of those projects are on hold because the costs were so high. The fees, the WAC, the SAC, the county fees, the connection fees, the transportation fees, all government. So the government screws you. And I'm not trying to be that guy either, but I'm going to be that guy for a minute in that industry. It's all about the money, man. It's like, hey, if you're going to convert our last couple acres of farmland, you're going to pay. Yeah. And then all of a sudden these cities get loaded with higher taxes. They get all these fees. The counties get the fees. Everybody loves it.
Hire a few more people, a few more 100,000. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Sorry, Ned.
There's a funny Twitter account called Unusual Whales, and it's tracking people that make big moves in stock markets and crypto. And he came out with a list of, I think it was 90% of Republicans and Democrats beat the market last year, and it was a historically bad stock market in 2022. And it's just going off your government thing is, I think they're making some money doing it. So,
yeah, for sure.
Now I'm going to get audited, and my tax assessor is going to call me today.
Yeah, you're assuming actually people would listen to this, Andy. So
yeah, hey.
No. All right, let's get into some fun stuff though. We'll do some social media reacts.
Good.
This works every time.
Honestly, real estate prices are just too high these days, and I have buyers that are lined up and pre-approvals running out in 3 months, and at some point someone's got to take things into their own hands. Hey, police. Yeah, I'm here at 248 Jiminy Road. I saw two guys with guns, like big guns, at the house, and I think they're also doing crack. So if you guys could send some police over here, that'd be great. Yeah, that'll stop showings for a week. I'm just helping out my clients have a little less competition when going for a house, It's no big deal.
That actually is funny. I mean, he'd get in trouble for that, but it's very funny.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm sure he's not doing it. I'm sure he's just joking, but it is pretty good. What is that called? Not redlining. That's like you're not trying to push them, but you're trying to scare people. God, there's something. It's called what's that? Steering.
Steering.
Yeah, maybe steering. Yeah, that you gotta scare people and get them out of that place.
You and your family might be more comfortable over here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing it with my mother right now to try to sell one of her houses. Just saying, that place is getting really sketchy, So I think it's working.
Well, good.
Yeah. Those things are kind of interesting. Gray flooring, that has kind of moved on. That's for sure. What was the other? Too much furniture. I totally agree. It just takes away from the rest of the house. People are looking at furniture versus the house. What were a couple other ones? Did you see
it
there?
said
Andy?
phrase furniture or phrase artwork.
Phrase artwork. So
this is a home, whatever.
Yeah. Gather. It's beautiful.
Pantry.
Yeah. Yeah, some of that stuff you get too personalized and people start maybe getting offended by it, maybe thinking that they can't live there, concentrating too much on that versus the things they should be concentrated on. So,
True. Yeah.
Okay, what I thought $1 million would buy me as a kid versus what it actually buys. Yeah, in California, that's for sure. I saw something the other day that said if you bought something in the Midwest versus in downtown New York, and it was a really cool, super neat contemporary house sitting on some acreage. And then all of a sudden in New York, it's basically a bedroom with a table and a chair, and it's an office and a kitchen table kind of thing. So all in about 200 square feet.
Yeah.
It's location.
But I would say trust your gut because like when you're out in California, you get used to being in that environment where everything's $1 million to $5 million to $25 million, and trust your gut. When you think it's too much, guess what happens when the economy slows down? It is too much, and then people will not pay what you just paid, and that's where you get those crazy receding numbers.
Andy, what are you seeing with people that are exactly that? Okay, hey, $1 million in Arkansas is going to get you that mansion, and $1 million in California is not going to get you anything. And as far as with the new way of working, where a lot of things online, moving to those kind of places to be able to kind of change their life and just really kind of because everything is less expensive when you go that route. What do you think of that? And have you had clients doing that?
Well, I think we're still in a bubble with working remotely, and a lot of people are sure convinced that this is going to be the way it is forever. And I'm not disagreeing with that, but just remember that once you're just a computer to that company, and there's no you're not living in New York City or Chicago or whatever, and you can live in the middle of Iowa or the middle of like Chris was saying, Arkansas. That value of that job is based on work only. So there's no accelerators for the city you live in. There's no you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is I think that that job that used to pay $250,000 in New York City, now you're remote. So now that job pays $150,000, and it doesn't matter where you live because they don't have to pay you more because you're working in your pajamas out of your house, and everybody wants that job. So why wouldn't everybody want to have a job where they work out of the pajamas at their house? Yeah. So I always say you better make sure you're dialed into what you do and be the best at what you do so that you're not just another one of the keyboard crankers that is earning a overly priced. And a lot of people, the sad thing is a lot of people know it. They're like, I can't believe how much I get paid to work from home. And I take the dog out 6 times a day, and I'm home for the kids after they get off the bus. And it's wonderful. It really is. It's like a dream come true. But what usually happens with dreams is that, got to be careful. Just be careful.
I think the other things that I've seen people run into that have done that is all of a sudden they're away from all their family and friends, and their family and friends aren't coming to visit them as much as they're living in Branson, being able to kind of really enjoy themselves. But it's almost like it's a whole new life, and sometimes it's kind of, all right, hey, it's going to be less expensive, or moving to South Dakota. I don't have any state income tax, but geez, I mean, I'm flying back to Minnesota every weekend so I can hang out with some buddies. So it doesn't really work out for you.
But. Yeah, you're right. And I agree with that. I don't think anybody disagrees with that aspect of it, but you do have that. It goes all into the equation, right? I mean, like, some people love the idea of having the freedom. I mean, they could work out of a motorhome and go state to state and travel and be, quote, retired. And it's also really cool because nobody knows what your age is, what your sex is, what your, the color of your skin is. It's very open, and it's subjective to the work that you're providing, not who you are. And so I think it's cool in a way, for that respect. I think it's kind of cool. But, I don't know. I just, to me, like, I need.
Would you do it?
I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of old fashioned. I really struggle to see the value in it, because for me, when somebody's working remote, I might as well hire somebody out of India at $5 an hour and have the work done remote that way. And you know what I mean? Because we do virtual assistants in real estate. So those people that don't know how this works, in real estate, we can actually hire virtual assistants. And I'm talking $10 to $15 an hour. And these people are brilliant and smart, and they will do spreadsheets. They'll do mailers. They'll do whatever these real estate agents need behind the scenes, the stuff that they normally don't like. Well, that's not being outsourced to here. It's being outsourced overseas, because people that are remote work for a lot less, because their cost of living is $3 a day versus, 300.
I mean, that thing, but would you move to another state to be able to get less expenses? You could sell your house in Champlin, for maybe 200, and then go to like Alabama and spend 180. Would you do it to save that money?
I cross my arms here in defense. I don't know. I sit there and I say, if I were to claim residency to move out of state, because I do, I love Minnesota. I have all my relatives are still here, which I enjoy. But on the other hand, the environment we're in, it could, let's say, property taxes, you're paying $25,000 a year on your house. I'd probably go somewhere where my dollar would go farther. I can have fun. I can go somewhere else and have fun too. I don't have to be here. I can have a boat and go fishing in Florida or Texas or wherever and have a good time too.
Do you think you'd get more than 200,000 for your house right now, though? Maybe
206.
Multiple offers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even pay 206.
Wow. That's probably what you did pay.
Yeah, probably close.
Kind of grew it into a very expensive home. But anyways, all right.
Let's get into the
zeros. Doesn't mean anything, Chris.
Okay, that's true.
Let's get into the main segment. We'll do some hardball negotiation tactics. It's Agent MD. It's going to be brought to you by the guy who wrote the article, Chris Rooney at Chris Rooney Home Experts.
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
I have someone, Andy, that's pushing me to kind of do a little more blogging. And so I just kind of went in and tried to figure out a bunch of different ways in which to negotiate. So I thought it might be a good thing for us to kind of get it out there. So I guess the first one is move first. Whether it gives your client the upper hand. I mean, I think that to me is a monster thing in today's market, is jumping on it as fast as you can and getting in there, because as a seller, so let's just say we're talking as a buyer, but as a seller, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the feeling of it. You never know, hey, if this is going to be the only offer that you get, and you might have to react to it quick. So moving first, I think, is a big thing. In different
Agreed.
types. Yeah. But in
No,
different
I
types.
agree. I think that, there's fatigue with that too. I mean, there's, so kind of to carry on, I guess, with that topic is that, like, what I tell everybody is when you get a buyer and a seller that want to go back and forth, right? And usually you go about 3 back and forths, and then somebody gets mad or says, screw these guys. This is my last offer. And so it's like I said, make sure you're putting your best foot forward. So when you're striking first, I always make sure to let people know that, hey, this is the math and the support or the comps or whatever you want to call it behind the offer. And so my first offer isn't wasted. Because if you just come in and say, I'll give you half price cash, nobody cares about that. You're not impressing anybody, and except your accountant, and everybody else thinks you're a jerk. So when you come in, I would say, first, but with good.
Yeah. So that's one tactic. And I'll tell you what, I think all of these, you can use some of them together and kind of almost like fake one of them and to bring in another one as well. So that's, to me, that's this whole negotiation tactics is more about like negotiations 200, but by kind of implementing together kind of what you started talking about, because we're going to hit on those, is when you start meshing them together and using multiple ones, that's where you can kind of really get somebody kind of thinking, oh my gosh, what are these guys doing? And so then that turns into real estate 400 instead. So moving first is one of the first ones. What about a take it or leave it offer, Andy? So it obviously puts the ball in the other people's courts. The client is usually on the telling the other party that, hey, I'm not going to budge. But you got to also understand, when you do a take it or leave it offer, you got to be willing to be able to let that thing go bye-bye too, because you lose all credibility if you try to say, okay, yeah, we will take it at that thing. I mean, now all of a sudden the negotiations become completely open again.
Yeah, I struggle with that, because I have I don't think it's realistic sometimes. I mean, in some cases where you really mean it, like, hey, I'm buying a Corvette and the Corvette's worth $85,000. I'm not going to pay 90. It's 85. You want it? We're here. That's fair market. We'll take it or leave it, and we go. But with a house, we're buying with emotions more than we are just facts, right? So I have usually 2 buyers, right? Or 2 sellers, a lot of times, just, assuming people are couples or whatever. And one's more emotional and one's more factual. And then so I have to deal with the emotions of so you're going to screw up our whole lives over $5,000. I can't be in the school district I want, the playground that I want, on the park that I want, on the street that I want, you name the scenario. And so over $5,000, you're going to throw all that away for me. And that's what I hear the conversations behind the scenes. So that's a little different, right? So then it's more about just for $5,000, get it done. But yeah, I've been with those investors where it's like, hey, we're offering, $800,000. It is what it is. Take it or leave it. See ya.
Yeah, and I think that's who you're doing those negotiation tactics for, are typically investors that aren't emotionally involved in, like you said, the parks and all of that kind of stuff that, for $5,000, it might be really worth it. As an investor, it's a typical, hey, this is what I want. This is how much I'm going to pay for it. Done.
Yeah. And that really might be their last. And so I think it is important, as the real estate agent presenting that offer, to say, here's where we're at. Again, just like I was saying before, the other properties in this area have all sold for $825, but they were financed. There were seller carried, financing. There was closing costs paid. There was equipment left behind, whatever it is. Like, I'm thinking of like a commercial shop or something like that for one of our contractor buddies. And then you go in there and you say, but we're willing to give you this, but it's got to be cash, our close. And we, and that's why some of our sellers too will leave a little bit of gravy on the potatoes by having some personal property that they might throw in, because they, for example, like, there's movie theater seats in the house, or there's, maybe a couple lifts out on the garage floor of the shop or whatever it is, and that they might leave those behind as value added because they wanted to buy new lifts for their new building anyway, but they didn't want to leave behind something that was of value, but to the right person, that is of value, right? So then you can get that higher price and justify it by saying, hey, here's our gift to you for paying our price.
I think an example of a take it or leave it type offer, from an agent and how we would probably do it is I'd come to you and just say, Andy, my investors looked at this property. They know what they need to do. I don't want to be, I don't want to be bad about this, but this is what it is, and that's what we'll do. And if not, totally understand. We'll just go on and we'll find another one. And these guys don't have to have this house, but if they're going to get this house, this is what the price is going to be. And so it's kind of a, not really, hey, take it or leave it, but you can be able to explain it in another way that just says that, hey, it's nothing about your house. It's about where I need it to be able to make money on it. On the
right.
property. So,
yep.
Okay. I know I think we talked about lowball offers last week. And
a whole
really
segment. You guys want to check it out? It's on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram now. We're doing clips about it. So
good. All right. So we probably don't have to hit that one again, but the fear of loss is obviously can be powerful as well. This is usually used when you have a property that's been on the market a little while and knowing the seller might be in a little trouble. And so if you're coming in and making an offer and maybe it's been on 90 days, whether that seller thinks there's ever going to be another offer. And it's almost like, gosh, I really don't want to lose this buyer. And there's ways in which to be able to, kind of hit them hard at the beginning and then start giving back. And Andy, I think you talked a little bit about that on the last one, is you're making deals and you're giving them the lift. And you know what, I'll do this if you give me this. And a lot of times, me as an agent, I'm always trying to find out from my client, what are things that maybe might not be a lot of value to them, but that we can sell as a lot of value to a potential buyer. And so it's like it's a hot tub, it's a lawnmower, it's a shed, it's a swing set, things that might be, I don't have kids anymore. I don't want no swing set. It'll be more of a pain in the butt to be able to do it. Well, maybe we hold that back because a lot of people take swing sets, and that's going to be an advantage for someone to be able to get that swing set.
When we were back in the short sale days, I remember I used to use a technique that I thought worked really well with people that were short selling their houses. So they would list this house, beautiful area, and they would list it to get offers. And so, they essentially had to pick a buyer that they think would go all the way to the end and close on the house. Well, there was no interest. The sellers didn't care because they were essentially losing that house anyway. They weren't walking away with anything. And so in that scenario, what was really kind of fun was when I would go in, hey, we would love to buy furniture. And we had who to buy that kitchen and dining room table would 10,000 guys out because we'd love to buy that stuff. It was a personal property deal, you know what I'm saying? And so my buyers would buy personal property and had nothing to do with the transaction. It worked out really well because also our offer became really attractive because now they were getting something of value and without breaking the rules.
Well, and on the opposite is that when you do give things like that, you never know. Buyers are probably thinking, well, geez, I can only pay this amount of money because I gotta buy furniture for the living room. I got to get something for the kitchen. We don't have any bar stools, and we have to get that swing set for the kid. And now all of a sudden, they're holding back 10,000 because they think they can. They have to get this stuff, and if you can relinquish that, you might be able to get that 10 grand. So here comes Agent MD 101. Talk to the other agent. It's really weird. You might find out stuff that is really helpful for you and your client. You just talk to the agent rather than just send an offer and say, hey, I've got an offer for you. And it's like, whoa, I didn't even know you were interested. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
no, you're so on the money. I think that is a generational thing too, where there's, and I don't know why, but there's some younger agents that find comfort in not presenting an offer and emailing it over and being non-confrontational. And I'm like, that's the worst thing you could do, because now I have to make up in my head, why would they do this to us? Why would they lowball us? Why would they whatever? And then basically there's almost this sense of they don't care enough to even call us to explain this to us. They're so disrespectful. And on the other hand, the agent's like, hey, I just want to send it over and not start a fight. I just want to see if they're interested at all. And it's like, I know what both sides are doing. So that's a lot of times I put their hat on and say, okay, what would be the possible strategy behind doing this? And so I just at least comprehend or understand what they're doing. On the other hand, there's days where I'll call those agents and say, hey, boy, you're lucky. It got spammed. I got your offer out of my spam folder in my email, and you didn't respond back to the feedback that we requested via email. So we just assumed that your email must be broken, or whatever. But okay, cool. So you wrote an offer. Explain the offer to me. And it's funny how a lot of agents, Chris, can't explain it. I mean, that's one of the things I know that you do with your agents when they're new to the team, is you spend the time to actually say, hey, okay, let's figure this out, right? Let's do you qualify?
Well, yeah. And I think sometimes now, if we are doing that, I mean, because we deal with it a lot, probably 80% of the time we get an email that states that, hey, here's an offer from my client. And I think from my perspective, it's good to give them a call, but also to follow it up with an email, because typically people that email will then turn around and email their client. And that's kind of their conversation. So you can really kind of put your narrative into that email, because most of them, if it's a good one, they'll forward it to the person. So you almost get the opportunity to talk directly to that client.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good point.
And give them justification for why, we want to be able to get this, and something maybe that agent wouldn't be able to do. My agent's just trying to get me to buy this house because I'm gonna, I haven't bought one for 2 months. They want to get paid. In reality, hey, you know what? There's 3 other people that really want this house. He wasn't lying to me. And it's kind of a good way in which to be able to kind of help them get the deal done.
Yeah.
Okay. Creating a sense of urgency. So it's motivating people to be able to make a decision quickly. Like you could say, hey, the rates are changing. We might not even qualify. We got to be able to lock in, or there's similar properties that are in the area that we could go to. We're going to try yours first. Nick, can you put that back? I just want to, yeah. And then your client needs a home now. That's another one that I've used quite a bit in this market, is that, we totally understand that there might be multiple offers and that you'll want to wait for them, but we need a house and we need to be able to get a house now, and it has to be this weekend. And if we can't get yours, it's going to be multiple offers. That's fine. Just we'll maybe come back when it is time for multiple offers. But
so we should change this. Yeah. We should change the topic from hardball tactics to empathy tactics.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, sometimes, oh my golly, that works so fantastic. Is just saying, hey, young mom and dad, 3 little babies. Oh my gosh, they love your house. They'd love to raise their family there. They need a house this weekend. We really have to get a move going, or we have to move on. Nothing personal. They only can afford so much. Think about everything that every string that I just went doing, doing, doing.
Yeah. Hey, hardball tactics is clickbait, Andy.
Yeah.
You get this social media thing. You guys did this social media thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have to do that so people look at it. Walking away from a negotiation is as powerful as you can get, in my opinion. But to me, the key is, Nick, put it back, please. The key, I can't read that fast. The key is to give as little information as possible. As an uninformed foe, so a realtor or another client or whatever, typically comes up with scarier reasons why the client's not responding. So if you're walking away and you don't give any reason for it, then they start making up stuff in their own head, which typically becomes a lot scarier than maybe what you're even going to tell them. I mean, I've dealt with that many times, and I'm telling you, all of a sudden they call back and say, you know what, maybe we're thinking about it, but we're just being quiet. They come back, you know what, we'll take your deal. We'll take the deal. And it's silence, being quiet.
I don't disagree with that. I think that there's also when you add into that walk away, an interesting element that some agents try to use is put a timeline on it, right? So you have to respond by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, no matter what, or we're gone. Well, in reality, I don't disagree with that. But what I've done is when we have said, hey, with your sellers, we want to put a timeline on when you guys will respond by. Do you guys have a timeline that you would be presenting within? So if I write this offer tonight, when can you present the offer, and when do you think a fair time to get back to us would be? And if they say, well, we'll present tomorrow morning at 10, we'll get back to you by noon. And I'll say, okay, so on the contract, based on what you just told me, I'm going to put a deadline of noon tomorrow based on our conversation, just so that we have some finality to this, so we can either, kind of the old get it done or move on. And I appreciate you getting it presented right away. That's awesome. Thank you. And
what I try to do is I try to break the narrative. So if it's an offer and it's a good one, and they say, we need an answer tonight by 5 o'clock, what I'll come back and say is, they're both at work. I can't get one of them's, in an area that they can't be bothered, and I won't be able to talk to them till at least 6 o'clock. Oh, that's okay. We'll be okay with that. Once you know that, and then all of a sudden, okay, that thing is gone, and now you can use it against them, because they were just trying to get you to know that they don't want anyone else trying to get into the mix.
I legitimately had that happen on a deal I did last month where we had 6 offers on a property, and mom and dad had kids' activities that night, and they're like, we can't miss this stuff. This is like opening baseball meetings, and we had dance with the other kid and whatever else. And it's like, so when you're sitting there and people do have lives, and understanding that, yes, you want to get the deal done, and yes, they should be prepared. If you're going live on the market, there's something to be said for this, Chris, too, for preparing your sellers, is to make sure that they're ready, that when we list it, are you ready to receive an offer as soon as that night? Because it can happen. So if all of a sudden, a lot of people just kind of go, oh yeah, they sell houses fast. Well, when I just sold their house in 90 minutes and got a more than list price, and it was cash, and it was whatever, and I go, that's worth taking time off of work to probably sit down and review that offer, get it signed and get it back, and let's make the buyer happy, thinking that we're working with them. Because at the end of the day, timelines put onto you are so that they can get what they want. Simple, right? And it's the terms they want, or it's the offer they want, or it's the house they want. And they're trying to motivate you to stay engaged with them to get the deal done. That's all. It's not like they're trying to be jerks. They just want to get the deal done. And so they're like, hey, you want to play tennis? Let's play tennis. Get on the court. Here's your stick. Let's go. Racket. Another
big thing is you have to remember that there's another human on the other side of this negotiation. And if you all of a sudden say, you know what, no, we're not going to really answer them, and we'll just wait and just let them sit there for a while, think about yourself in that same position on the other side. And I think some people get too much, like, they don't understand and they haven't been through it. It's our job as agents to be able to tell them, hey, here's the story. You've got a buyer out there that has made this offer, that's thought about it. They know what the schools are. They know what the parks are. They put Johnny in his one bedroom, and Susie got her bedroom, and my office is going to be down here. They've taken a lot of time in which to do it. Now, we don't know what kind of person they are. Are they just trying to lowball us? Do they not have enough money? We don't know any of that, but know that they did take a lot of time to be able to do this. And we need to be able to look at this offer strongly. And if there's some things that don't work in it, then we go back on those things. And hey, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that doesn't mean because someone came in and it's 2 days on the market and they said, it's listed at $299, and they give us $299 and they don't give us $330,000, doesn't mean that they're not a good buyer. And It might be, we don't have anyone else right now. Let's talk about it. Maybe we can go back to them and say, hey, we like you as a buyer. We really do. We think that, we've got a good house here. And we're going to come back to you. I know we're listed at $299, but if you want it and it's $315 and you'll close this day and you'll give me a little more earnest money, we'll get this deal done. There's nothing wrong with that. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. You move on to the next one. So
good.
All right. Ultimatum. Make it an ultimatum. is a tactic used to set a deadline. This could mean setting a deadline, like we just talked about, Andy. If the counter offer is acceptable, or we run into this a lot now, and on like if we're going to counter somebody back. So let's just say we have multiple offers, and we've got all these people waiting Sunday at 5 o'clock, and we're going to go and try to work with this one offer, and everything was great except that we wanted a little earnest money, and we wanted to move up the closing for 2 weeks. And so we go back to that person and then say, okay, well, let me get back to my clients. If you don't put a timeline on that, you're really hurting yourself on the other offers, because those people are sitting there waiting, and you just use them for 3 hours to try to be able to get someone else to a closing date. These people don't get back to you. So if you're in the position that you've done a multiple offer, be prepared to answer the back immediately, because it needs to get done ASAP. But I'll put timelines on that. And so if it's 5:30, it says, you know what, you got till 6 o'clock to get back to me and let me know. I can't tell you how many times, Andy, they said, oh, the client went out to dinner. Well, what? You're in a multiple offer situation. You want to get a house or not? Get a hold of them.
I had a deal a month and a half ago where the agent came to me and said, what do you think of the offer? And I said, it's great, but we have a counter for you, and here's what it is. And all of a sudden I get a call back the next day, and I'm like, they must not have accepted. We must have moved on. And I get a call back the next day and say, so what are you going to do with our offer? I'm not kidding you, Chris. I sat there and I go, it was countered yesterday at, according to my notes, 9:32 in the morning. And you've been sitting on this for 24 hours. He goes, you can't do verbal communications on an offer.
Yeah.
I go, oh, yeah? I go, really? I said, when did they change that rule? And I go, a lot of times what happens is real estate agents, or in any negotiation, they go back and forth. They don't write up all the documents every time to support their offer and then put it, because as much as I appreciate that, I mean, the proper way I should have done it then, I guess, is filled out a counteroffer addendum, sent the counteroffer addendum over for them to sign. But instead, I just, old school me thinks you're going to go ping pong, back and forth a few times, because where they started and where we started are totally different, right? So you get that illusion that, well, maybe we're going to go back and forth. Why don't you run this by, shoot this over the bow and see if they can live with it? And if they can, then I'll get you everything you need to sign.
Yeah.
Do you ever do that, or what do you do? Do you always send it in writing, or what do you do?
No, I think it really depends. I try to not send it in writing, not put my sellers in a position that they're kind of just sitting there not knowing what's going on. What I like to do is I go back to the people and say, hey, here's the counter, boom, boom, boom. You go get that signed, send it back to me, all signed, then I'll get it signed.
Sure.
Because I'm not going to send out my signatures without having it done, unless it's something real simple.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I think that's another thing, Andy, is that, like, for myself, and using all these different tactics, is that you can't be the same on everything. I don't have, okay, here's what I do on an offer, and it's got to go like this and this, because it doesn't happen that way. You got to be able to read into what the offer is. And if you really look at it and kind of take everything into play, you can figure out the best way in which to be able to go back at it. And obviously, maybe not if you're starting, but if you've been in it, myself, 33 years, I've seen quite a few offers. And so you can kind of figure it out and which way you got to go. And that's why I said real estate 400, 500 is basically taking a few of these tactics and meshing them together to be able to try to get what you need. So, okay, next one.
Well, and I think that also over time, too, Chris, we have where those concessions are different. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't just always have the same stuff. It's not boilerplate, same stuff, same season. I mean, we saw last year, the offers coming in were completely different than 6 months prior. And now offers are coming in again, completely different. So when we talk about things like concessions, like things that you'll concede or give in on or whatever. And it's really different now than it was, because now last year we had all these appraisal gap guarantees. Now nobody's writing them again. So it's like, that was something that, a concession that was made. Like, hey, if you're going to offer over asking price, we just want you to ensure that, your $10,000 that you've offered over our list price is something you'll pay in cash. Because if you're truly making the offer, make the offer real to us by making this concession, right? And some buyers were like, sure, no problem. Yep. Here's the extra cash. We still have the 20% down beyond that. And then now if it appraises less than the price, asking price or list price, then that's negotiable.
Yeah.
But.
All right. So making small concessions. And what small concessions are is just sometimes it's like earnest money or a little on the price. And maybe it's $1,000 or $2 or, increasing the earnest money from $5,000 to $8,000. Maybe it's taking inspection timelines from 7 days to 5 days. Just little things that show that you're not heartless and that you're willing to work with them, but that you're sincere about, what, this is the price that it's going to be. This is what I need, and you know what, I can do that. I'll move the inspection from 7 days to 5 days, and I'll get it done as quick as I can. Those are good little concessions that make it feel better.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, the blame game. The blame game is a great tactic. And what it does is it takes it off your client and puts it on someone else. And so it's like, you know what, we would love to buy this house, but the market is telling us this. And the market's probably, and you know what, the economy, inflation is going way up and rates have gone, crazy. Or one of the better ones is, because it's everyone can kind of relate to it, is the parents. You know what, the parents got involved. It's an inspection, and you always talk about dad at the inspection, and that, hey, here's what he came up with, and people go, I get it. That's what my dad would have done as well.
Oh yeah, the old dad factor plays in big time. I mean, when you're going through some of that stuff and the windows, the roofs, the furnaces, the bigger ticket items is what a lot of times the dads and moms will point out as a parent, and just trying to guide their kids through a purchase. And I don't blame them. I mean, on the other hand, hey, if you're looking at houses in Minneapolis, there's a real good shot that furnace was a boiler. And, and then the boiler turned into a 78% efficient furnace. And then now it needs to be replaced again. But, it's kind of like depending on what kind of housing stock you're shopping, being prepared, or having the houses, they're not airtight, or they're not insulated properly, or they're not whatever. Those are kind of common knowledge items that will be addressed in each house as you go.
Another tactic to use is when you're talking about a house in Minneapolis, it's always good to kind of maybe throw something in there that they understand without saying, hey, I get it, the house is older. Saying, you know what, my parents had a house in Minneapolis and they just love the area and, the coolness of these houses. And, and we obviously know they're not super energy efficient and they're not up to date, but there's so much more other things to it, because that scares people in inspections. Anytime you have an older house, it's a big scare for sellers. And if you can kind of alleviate that a little at the beginning, you might be able to get an offer accepted, because they're really worried about that inspection. All of a sudden, well, geez, their parents lived in one. They know exactly what they're dealing with, in Minneapolis. So
right. I mean, or just that age of housing. I mean, I think that's the key thing there, is that we're talking about, aged housing stock or whatever, 100-year-old house or whatever.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways in which to negotiate, and even within kind of those subtitles, there's a lot of ways in which to play with under them. But I think understanding what the other person is going through is a big first step to know how to be able to negotiate.
Hey, the best thing, like even like going in and talking to your boss about getting a raise, if you understand how your boss gets paid, all of a sudden it gets really simple for you to figure out how to get, them excited about you and give you that raise that you need. So understanding the motivation behind the person you're negotiating with will get you 90% farther than anything else, I think, is that just understanding like, hey, the guy across or the girl across the table from me, what are they trying to get done here? Well, if it's all about price, maybe you can negotiate something else. Right. If it's all about everything else and not the price, well, maybe you get a better price and not everything else. Right. So I learned that years ago from another real estate agent, is understanding the motivation of the person or how the person across the table from you is paid. It's even trying to get a raise. It's a good tip.
I'm with you. Awesome.
Did Nick fall in the pool?
Beautiful. Hey, they're doing they're doing a little construction here, so I'm trying to stay up. But next week, I'm finally in permanent housing, so I won't have any problems anymore. For everyone else, make sure you check out our Linktree. It has our websites, YouTube, Facebook. We're doing a lot of shorts on there, Instagram Reels now. Give us a like, a subscription, and write us a review. It'd be beautiful.
Ciao, boys.
Have a good day, guys.
See you guys.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.